Hi everyone. Yeah, good afternoon. Okay, so let's agree those things. So good afternoon everyone. We are going to start immediately since we already have our facilitator today. Um, I'm personally excited to have Olugbenga here today. Hi Benga, how's it going? Great to have you here.
Very fine. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, we have Mr. Olugbenga Ogunbowale here in this last session of the Ideate 4.0, and of course the last but not the least. In fact, it should be the most important part, because after this you guys will be preparing your startups for the demo day and pitching session which we hold in November. Why the Ideate five guys we start their own sessions from Monday. So you guys have more than enough time, September, October, to prepare your startups for the pitch and hopefully for seed funding for those of you that are able to scale through the pitching session. So without wasting much of our time, who is mid drone? Please, can you mute? Oh, okay. So we're going to start now. So we have with us here today Olugbenga Ogunbowale. So Gbenga is the CEO of Grandmaster, um, a business transforming the funding landscape for ambitious organizations in need of grant funding, with backing from esteemed institutions such as US Chamber of Commerce, Google for Sustainable Development Goals, AWS. Grandmaster is helping ambitious organizations win grant funding to accelerate their impact. Gbenga has been recognized as Africa's fundraising champion by Origo International, one of the one of the five most outstanding social entrepreneurs in Nigeria by the Nigerians NG, one of the 10 outstanding young persons of Nigeria by JCI, and one of the 100 most influential young people in the world by Opportunity Hub. Gbenga has won over 50 awards and accolades, including being recognized as a Mandela Washington Fellow and Ambassador, Tony Elumelu Fellow, Mentor and Influencer, Loyal Commonwealth Society, a two-time TEDx speaker. Gbenga has addressed high-level audience including governors, business tycoons, and lawmakers across three continents. He has been featured by the United Nations, Voice of America, US Chamber of Commerce, USAID, and numerous local and international media outlets. Please join me in welcoming Olugbenga Ogunbowale.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Good afternoon,
Fine,
everybody.
fine, fine. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope that you can all hear me.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, okay, fantastic. Oh, Mary. Oh wow, the MW WhatsApp group. Oh, excited. It's good to see you here again. I'm really excited to be here, and I will share my screen very shortly. Okay, I believe you can see my screen. Play from start. Okay, so let's get started. So my job this afternoon is very simple. My job is to teach you how to pitch your startup. And this is going to be a very practical session, very, very practical. Just a minute. Let me put on my stopwatch. I want to be sure that we stick to time. All right. So the picture that you're seeing on your screen was taken in 2019. This was GSTECI, a global competition organized by the US government, and it held in Bahrain. Now, if you don't know Bahrain, you can be forgiven. Bahrain is very close to Dubai, UAE, essentially. So Bahrain to UAE is like around 30 to 45 minutes by flight. They're very, very close. Bahrain is, equally very rich, oil rich, just like Dubai, very beautiful, fantastic place. Essentially, I got selected among the top 24 startups in the world. So that was how I found myself in Bahrain. And then we had a series of pitches. So from top 24, I got to top 12. And then another pitch, I got to top 6. And then at the very, very final stage, which is, this picture, which is what you're seeing on the screen, the judges asked me a simple question. How are you going to make money, right? And the answer that I gave was just a very generic, nonchalant answer. Like, even before the judges told me, revealed the final results, I already knew that this was not going to work out, right? I already knew, like, it is finished, right? So I lost the speech, right? It was very, very sad, very, very painful because, I came back to Nigeria with nothing, right? I lost the pitch, but my goal this afternoon is not to tell you a sad story or to show you like 1 million ways, about to lose a pitch. No, it's to show you how I transitioned from this loss, to a big win. All right. So I want you to stay with me. I'm gonna make this session as very practical as possible. I'm gonna break the steps down, and hopefully we're gonna have 1 or 2 class exercises so that you really can test this for yourself. Because if you really know how to pitch, there's almost nothing you can do. Selling will be easier for you, leading will be easier for you. So the skills, the pitching skills that you acquire is not only useful for raising money, right? It's also for inspiring people. It's also for making progress, because every single day you wake up, you are pitching, whether or not you realize it. If you're a married person, of course, every single time you're pitching to your partners, you're pitching to your kids, right? If you're already running a startup or you're about to start a startup, you're going to be pitching to people all the time. So this is a very valuable skill. And especially because, all of you are looking to raise money in a few weeks or months. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing I want to share with you is you need to know your audience, right? I think it's a big disservice if you are pitching to a set of people and you don't have any idea about the set of people that you're pitching to. Let me give you an example. There was a time Yali Network Ibadan invited me to give a talk, right? And then if you want to invite me to give a talk somewhere, you have to fill a particular form. And so on that form, they were like, oh, expected audience. They were like youths, of course, young people are youths. When I got there, guess the people that were in the audience, majority of people, secondary school students, they were like half. I was asking the organizer, like, why? You told me young people. Why am I seeing secondary school students? He now told me that, oh, they came for another program and then they saw this flyer, blah, 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 and then they decided to join, right? I basically had to change my presentation because of the audience. Yes, because essentially I can't be like delivering the very high level thing that I already prepared for young people, for youths, people that are 20 and above. I can't be saying the exact same thing to people that are 12, 13, 14, right? It's very important you know your audience. Now, this is the same mistake people make when they go to pitch somewhere. Maybe there's a competition somewhere or you are supposed to pitch your service. You don't know the investors. You did not Google them. Even if it's a competition, you did not Google the name of the judges. You didn't check them out on LinkedIn just to know. Do you know that you can bond with an investor or with a judge over something as simple as their football club? I'm not kidding. Over something as simple as their football club, you find a way to weave that into your story, right? So let me give an example. So just imagine, for instance, you know that the person who is heading the panel of the Startup Pitch contest is a Real Madrid fan, right? I'm a Real Madrid fan. The way I will introduce myself is, hi, my name is Olugbenga Ogunbowale. I'm a social entrepreneur and a Real Madrid fan. Thank you. Why? Because I know that he's a Real Madrid fan. He will connect. Is somebody learning something? Is somebody learning something? I want to be sure that I'm, that you're actually learning and you're following, right? I want you to go to the chat box right now. I want you to type, yes, I'm learning. And if you're not learning, please type, no, I'm not learning, right? I want feedback in real time. Feedback in real time. Okay, Mary, yes. Anita, dropping facts. Know your audience. Okay, I'm learning. Michael's also learning. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. I just want to be sure that we're on the same page. So I think it's really very important, right? Never go into any competition or go to pitch to investors without doing your homework, without researching them. What have they invested in the past? If, for example, an investor, you're pitching a food startup to an investor, and maybe that's to do with meat, and the investor is a vegetarian, of course, you're not going to get money. How do you expect an investor that is a vegetarian to fund your meat startup? Share you the wine meaning. Like, just do your homework. Like, do your homework. Sometimes it's the simple things, right? Sometimes it's not even so much about like what you actually have on the deck. Sometimes it's what you did even before coming, right? So just do your homework. The next thing is target different audiences. Of course, in order for you to pitch, you need to have a pitch deck, right? So, and of course, I came prepared for you. So you're going to see examples, right? I came prepared for you. You're going to see examples. Now, the way you pitch in a startup competition is not necessarily the way you pitch to an investor. They are similar, but you have to make adjustments. Sometimes you're going to be pitching in a program where no money is at stake. Let me give you an example. Grandmaster was selected for Google for SDGs in Africa. We're one of the, I think, 20 or 15 startups selected in Africa, right? And we pitched. There was no money at stake, but investors were on the call, right? So it was just a very chilled environment, right? No money at stake. You're not pitching for money, but investors, if they're interested, they'll probably take up the conversation. So you have to tailor your pitch. It's totally different if you're pitching at, say, like a startup contest where like money is on the line. The kind of energy you bring is completely different, right? So you have to tailor it for your different audiences. Are you talking to an investor? Are you talking to maybe, if you're pitching to like a potential partner, that's like an entirely different conversation, right? And what kind of investor am I pitching to, right? So based on the point number one, which is like their interest, then tailor that pitch, right? Tailor the pitch to your audience. Let me give you a short story. I don't know if you guys have heard about this popular startup, WeWork. Yes, I know WeWork crashed and all, but before it crashed, Adam Newman raised money from Masayoshi's son. Now, if you don't know son, you really should Google SoftBank. SoftBank is, if you're counting like the top 5 biggest investors in the world, VCs in the world, you count SoftBank because they invest huge amounts of money, right? You hear 100 million, 1 billion, 5 billion. SoftBank does not do small money, right? So you really should read up about Masayoshi Son and SoftBank. Now, Adam Newman was targeting Son. He wanted to raise money from Son. Do you know what he did? He went to disrupt India. Now, he was not even on the speaker list, right? He made phone calls and hustled his way into the speaker list. When he got on stage, all the stories he told, the things he said, guess who he was targeting? He was targeting Son. After that speech, and somebody was, he was talking with someone, right? And it was even his dad, right? He said something to his dad. He said, you're not my audience. The guy is crazy, right? Crazy. He said, you're not my audience, because the dad was saying, why didn't you say this particular thing about me? Something like that. He said, you're not my audience. He came for one person. Can you imagine that? Imagine that you go to a conference and you have one person, your target audience. Long story short, of course, he raised money. He raised billions. That's what happens when you know your audience. That's what happens when you know your audience, right? So it's possible that you go to a huge conference and you just have one person as your target audience, right? So adjust your pitch. Adam Newman went to Shop India for one person, just one person, and he tailored his pitch. He knew exactly, he had researched on. He knew exactly the kind of story he likes, his values, and he tailored the pitch, and he got the money. And then the final point here is example pitches, right? How many of you are familiar with Shark Tank? Or maybe you've seen any episode of Shark Tank. Anybody here? Please, I want your reaction in real time. Just go to the chat. Anybody? You've seen Shark Tank? Yes, no, or what is Shark Tank? Please go to the chat box. Yes, no. Okay, there's a no. Okay, so I'll encourage you to watch episodes of Shark Tank. It's a fantastic show where mostly American entrepreneurs, even though there are like multiple versions across multiple countries, right? But the American version, I like the American version very much. There's also a Nigerian version called Dragon's Den. But the American version, sorry, I really like it because of the caliber of the investors, and then the deals actually get done, right? I don't know so much about the Nigerian version or whether or not people get money, because a friend of mine that got on the show didn't get the money, right? So I really don't know so much about that. I can't speak to that, right? But the American version, I think what you learn from that is just the ability to sell. Come and see the way people like package, right? The excitement people bring to pitch, the excitement, the energy, the preparation that goes into pitching. So you really need to watch Shark Tank, to see example success pitches. And also, like, a lot of these startup competitions, they have YouTube channels. You can go and watch like the pitches free of charge, right? So you really don't have any excuse. If you deliver a bad pitch somewhere, you're at fault. Absolutely, it's your fault, because you really don't have an excuse. There are successful pitches that you can check online and basically use to like improve your own pitch, right? Okay, so let's move on. So that's the very first point: know your audience, right? Now let's talk about crafting the story, right? Everyone loves a good story. Think of your pitch as a journey and take your audience along for the ride. Remember when I started this, I talked about, my experience at Bahrain, how I got to the final, top 24, top 12, top 6, and then still lost, right? Everyone loves a good story, right? Think about, if it's possible, think about like your best case study. Is there somebody that has already like engaged your business and then their life was transformed? Let me give you an example, right? While I was running earlier, I started a business called ePower.ng, right? It still exists, in a web and app, agency, right? And ePower did trainings. So we would train unemployed youths and help them get jobs. And one of the people we trained is someone called Godfrey. Godfrey got a job as, guess where? Jobberman, right? Now, the way we would tell the story of Geoffrey is, as at the time Geoffrey came for our training, he had family members that had finished school years before him at home. He was very fearful for his future. Like, am I going to get a job? Will I join this bandwagon by the time I leave school and all? But he came to our training and he got a job within a few weeks, right? That's a huge story. So if I were to be pitching ePower, I would definitely tell the story of Godfrey. Why? Because I can tell you all the 1 million things that we're doing. You probably forget, but you remember the story that I tell you. Why? Because facts tell, stories sell. Stories are sticky, right? And also because transportation leads to persuasion. If you want to persuade people, you need to move them from point A to point B. And what is the best transportation or persuasion device? It's a story. Is somebody learning something? Are you learning something? Go to the chat box right now. Is somebody learning something? I want to be sure that we're doing this, that we're in this together, that we're doing this together. Are you learning something? Okay, I see Jayola. Okay, Mary is learning. Okay, yeah, so Michael is also learning. Fantastic, right? So humanize narrative, right? Highlights the problem. You need to show your investors the problem that you're solving and why it matters, right? The problem and why it matters, right? For example, if you want to raise money for like a solar startup, right? What is the problem? Just yesterday, the national grid collapsed, right? Why does it matter? Without power, school children cannot do their assignment, businesses cannot function, right? A lot of small startups are going to run at a loss. Petrol is so expensive, right? You need to highlight it. What is the problem and why does it matter? And then the final point here that I want to give is like introducing your solution, right? Show how your product or your service addresses the problem, right? There is something called product market fit, right? So you know that the market has the problem. There's a demand for it. But is your product actually meeting that need, right? Is your product actually meeting that need? That's product market fit. Essentially, so let me give you an example. Let's say we're still in this solar space and, the way we want to tackle energy poverty in Nigeria, the fact that, we have power failure, national grid has collapsed. Let's say the way you want to tackle it is that you want to make kerosene lamps cheaper to manufacture. Are you really solving the problem? No, because investors don't even want people using kerosene lamps. Kerosene lamps are bad for your health, right? Yeah. So if you make kerosene lamp or kerosene lantern, if maybe, I don't know the cost right now, but let's say kerosene lantern is like, say, 5,000 naira. If you reduce the cost to 1,000 naira, you are still not solving the problem. In fact, you're a part of the problem, right? Let me give you another example. So let's say you are in the health space and essentially what you're doing is like you're delivering drugs, right, to remote locations, right? That's one way to solve the problem. But imagine that if the way you were solving the problem is packaging counterfeit drugs, repackaging them, right, so that people don't know the difference between what is original and what is fake. Are you solving a problem or are you the problem? Do you understand? Right? So it's very important that you show your product or service, show how you are addressing the problem, very, very key. So let's move on. Now, okay, so a little bit of bragging, right? So, I told you Bahrain 2019, I didn't win. 2020, there was this pitch contest that I applied for. It was the Global Investment Summit. We had startups from all over the world, London, US, from Africa too. And I won, right? I won. Now, what did I do differently this time? First of all, I clearly defined the pain point, right? And what I pitched at this competition was Grandmaster. I clearly defined the pain point, right? The fact that organizations want to win grants, NGOs, startup entrepreneurs, they want to win grants. However, grant writing is tough. If you've ever tried to write a grant before, you know what I'm talking about. Grant writing is tough, like very, very tough. Just to give you an idea, sorry, let me go back. Just to give you an idea of how tough grant writing is. If you want to apply for some certain grants, just the what is called RFP, request for proposal, which is like the document showing you all of the requirements and all of that. Sometimes a single RFP can be as long as 20 pages. Can you imagine that? Just instructions, 20 pages. You've not even started writing anything. So grant writing is probably, I think you can compare it to like rocket science when it comes to writing, right? And so I clearly defined that pain point. Next, I talked about the solution, the fact that Grandmaster is a marketplace. We match, badass grant writers with ambitious organizations, right? We match them together. So organizations don't have to go to Upwork or Fiverr to go and be looking for, grant writers up and down. We've done that work for them. We match, right? So solution, we're saving organizations time, we're saving them money, and also because we are way cheaper than a lot of all these platforms, so we're saving them time and money, right? Market size, I was able to show the market size, the fact that a lot of people, are trying to write, right? They're struggling to, they need help, and they also don't want to spend, an entire day looking for a writer, on one of those platforms, right? We were able to show the size, right? Business model, very simple business model. We charge you for the work that we do, right? Charge you for the work that we do. Very simple business model, right? And then traction. We were able to show that within a very short time. As at this time, when I pitched in October, the startup was just like a few weeks old. And then we were able to show like growth, sales, traction, real money in the bank within just a very short period of time. And then the team part, of course, I talked about myself, talked about some of the awards that I've won, the things that I've done, right? And then the ask was kind of dicey because essentially it was not like they were promising us money on the line, but they were promising us like some other benefits, right? So the ask part was not very well defined because they also did not really define like exactly what they were going to give us, right? So in terms of the ask, it was not exactly well defined, which was, pretty deliberate. So these were the things that I did. And what I'm going to attempt to do on this call is to like break it down and just show you step by step how I won the competition, right? Okay. Engineer Anita is saying grant writing is stressful indeed. Indeed it is. If you've tried, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what you're looking at is what our pitch deck looks like, actual pitch deck for Grandmaster, right? What it looks like, right? We use this to apply for a particular competition. So we have quite a number of versions for our pitch decks, but this is like a cover page, actual, right? Now look at this. What are we trying to communicate? We're trying to communicate what we do. What are we doing? We're connecting African SMEs to grant funding, right? As simple as that. And look at our website, right? As simple as that. But I want you to take note of the key things here, the beautiful design, the catchy fonts, right? Your pitch deck has to be very sharp, right? It has to be very sharp. It should not look like something that was designed in 1990, right? It has to be very, very sharp. Okay, so let's move on. Also from Grandmaster, our deck, problem that we're solving. Like I told you earlier, SMEs struggle to access grant funding. There's limited access to expert writers. The application process is complex. As you can see from this picture, this girl, she's like, oh, this application wants to turn my head, right? So these are the problems that we're solving. And essentially start thinking about your own startup, right? what problem am I solving? How am I solving this problem, right? How can I articulate it? How can I make it so easy for someone who is not in my industry to understand the problem, right? And then I want to give you problem statement examples, right? So let's move away from Grandmaster now to like other examples. So transportation, right? Here's an example for you. Current transportation options are expensive, inefficient, and contribute to traffic congestion and pollution. There is a need for a more sustainable and affordable transportation solution. Now, I don't know about you, but I think I can definitely relate with this, especially if you live in a big city like Lagos in Nigeria. To move around the Lagos, if you both and Uber, if you're not careful, you spend your entire salary, right, on moving around, right, and also using downfall and all of that can be really stressful. If you're not careful, your wallet will even get lost before you get to your destination, right? So, and then most importantly, these cars are polluting the environment, you know, all of the fumes, you know, from the environment. What about traffic congestion, right? So can we all agree that this is a real problem? First of all, I want to start like that. Can we all agree that this is a real problem? I want you to go to the chat box right now. Is this a serious problem, this transportation problem that I just described now? Is it a problem, or is just not a big deal, right?
No,
Mary said, any other person?
It's a serious problem, sir.
Oh, okay. Michael said it's a serious problem. All right. Okay. Right. So this is how to phrase, you know, a problem statement. Now, let me warn you, we're going to have some class exercises. So if you have pen and paper, draw it closer to you, or you can type on your phone because we're going to have, you know, class exercises. Next, healthcare. So just imagine that you're running, you know, a healthcare startup. And this is a generic example, I know, but I want to get you thinking about how to frame your own problem statement. Access to quality healthcare is limited in many places, leading to long wait times, high costs, and insufficient care. There is a need for improved healthcare access and affordability, right? And of course, this is absolutely true. I can relate with this, right? I can relate with this because, you know, I've had surgery. So when you're talking about healthcare, especially healthcare in Nigeria, like I can write an entire novel, an entire book, an entire essay, thesis on healthcare in this country, right? I can relate because if you use big hospitals, right? In Ibadan, for example, UCH is the biggest hospital here, right? Before you see a doctor, if you go in the morning, if you go as early as like 7 a.m., you may not see that doctor until 4 p.m. And that is if you see the doctor on that very day. I'm not kidding. I kid you not, right? Also, if you go to private clinics, some of them don't have like qualified staff. So sometimes you are dealing with people who really don't know what they're talking about. But then you are torn between the devil and the deep blue sea, because if you go to a government hospital, before you see the specialist, you know, if you're not if you're not careful, you waste your entire day, and hopefully maybe the situation will go out of hand. Hopefully it won't, right? So this is a serious problem. And then essentially you have to phrase the problem in a way that whoever is reading your pitch deck or listening to your pitch can relate, you know, to what you're saying, right? They can relate to it. You don't want to use big grammar, you know, high-sounding words, or just some stuff they can relate to, right? And then the final example here on problem statement is education. Traditional education methods are outdated and fail to meet the needs of today's learners. There's a need for innovative and personalized learning solutions that foster creativity and critical thinking, right? So before we go on to the classwork, does anybody have any questions so far on problem statements? Or how to write like the problem section of your pitch deck? Any questions so far? Do we understand? Does this make sense? Okay. Anything I say makes so much sense. Okay, fantastic. Right on. Okay, all right, okay. Michael, yes. Okay, fantastic. All right, so classwork number 1. I want you to write the problem statement for your startup and share with us in the chat box. Now, it doesn't matter whether you started or you're about to start, right? I'm sure that there is a certain problem that is driving you crazy. Whatever that problem is, right? Frame it like you would frame, I mean, these are examples here, right? Frame that problem, right? And pitch it to us in the chat box. And I'm going to give you, 3 minutes. So we're at 24 minutes, 45 seconds into this call. So I'll give you 3 minutes, and then I'll check on you by in the next 3 minutes, right? So 3 minutes to come up with a problem statement, and then share in the chat box And then when we return, we would analyze and dice, your problem statement. We'll analyze it, and then I'll give you feedback. So see you in 3 minutes. All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Okay, so let me see. How many people have submitted so far? Okay, engineer Anita has submitted. All right. Building a construction project in Nigeria is stressful, uncertain, and an expensive customer journey. There's a need for a platform to access verified vendors, qualified consultants, construction materials, and guarantee on service delivery to actualize the delivery of construction projects at optimized cost. Okay, well done. You're on the way. I think what I'll do differently is talk about why it is stressful, right? Why is this stressful, right? Why is it stressful, right? So you can talk about, I think like all of the things you said at the end are things that you should emphasize in your introduction, right? Like building a construction project in Nigeria is stressful. That's point number one, right? There is a lack of, verified vendors, qualified consultants, Point number two, right? Lack of, because you don't necessarily have to even introduce the solution in the problem statement. It's not, you don't necessarily have to, right? But if you must, make sure that you emphasize the problem more so that you're not stuck, you're not overemphasizing the solution about the problem. It's very important that the problem shines through. So I hope you got that. I hope that was useful for you. Okay. About Sakonde, lack of digital platform to showcase and locate African sporting talents. Lack of digital platform to showcase and locate African sporting talents. Abbas, I want to push back a little bit. Can you tell us more? I want to hear more about this problem because I'm not getting it, right? I'm not getting it. So please share, give us more information. Mary, currently women, only 20% of their clothes, leaving the 90% that take up closest space. Mary, I think like a word is missing. Do you mean women only wear? Leaving the 90% that take up closest space, I might end up in landfills that pollute our water and environment. Therefore, there's a need for online marketplace for selling and buying pre-loved clothes. This is interesting, especially if the statistics is actually correct, right? This is interesting. I mean, me as a guy, I know that I wear almost all my clothes. In fact, I actually have a fashion timetable. Yeah, like I know what I'm wearing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I wear like Grandmaster t-shirts, Thursday, I wear like a corporate shirt or a jean. Friday is always knitting, right? So like there's a timetable, right? So there's no way I have a cloth that I'm not wearing, impossible, right? But I mean, Mary, if this is correct, then there's probably something there. Okay, Michael, lack of a reliable global marketplace for drones. Existing platforms lack specialization in drones. Limited product choices and ecosystem buying experience. Michael, this is good. Like these 3 points actually look like the kind of stuff that would be on a pitch deck. So Michael, you're definitely onto something. Okay, Engineer Anita, you're welcome. Okay. Nigerian businesses and companies adopt one solution to fit all in solving problems, and there's a need to build tailored application and strategies, empowering businesses and communities with tailored tech-driven solutions for sustainable growth. Okay, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. And this is part of what, this is part of the reason why we're having this conversation. Some of you in your head, you know the problem that you're solving, but to say it is the problem. You need to communicate. Your problem statement cannot be generic. It cannot be generic. You need to be able to communicate. What is the problem, right? What is the problem? Is it that small business owners need, business support, but business advisory is expensive? Okay, I'm pushing back. What is the actual problem you're solving? Because I'm not getting it. Okay, Hillary, there's a great need to produce electricity for our basic needs without harming the environment at the same time. So we try to create a cleaner environment. No, respond via chat. So we try to create a cleaner environment and produce electricity, but the method being used are harmful. At Tribe Africa, we'll fix this problem by producing biogas. It takes away the pollution from the environment at the same time generate electricity. So Hillary, I think you're onto something, but the way you're pitching it, you're making it pretty boring. You have to start from the fact that Nigeria is facing an energy crisis. Step number one. Step number two is that the alternatives right now are alternatives to energy from the national grid, which is of course collapsing every time, are expensive, right, and harmful for the environment, right? And then point number three, you can then find a way to link up to biogas, right, and link it up to biogas, right? Because essentially biogas is not only safer for the environment, but it's cheaper, and so you can make comparisons and you can say, oh, biogas is 4 times cheaper than petrol. Those are the kind of things that should be on your deck. Hillary, I hope you are listening to me. Those are the kind of things that should be on your deck. You should be making those kind of comparisons. Biogas is 4 times cheaper than petrol, right? 10 times safer for the environment. Those are the kind of things that should be on your deck. I hope that helped. Okay, Anita. Tech bro behavior. Michael, you're welcome. Okay, Abbas, lack of mobile and web apps to showcase and find African sporting talent. So Abbas, I think you need to dig deep and ask yourself, what is really the problem? Why are we unable to find African sporting talent? In fact, why should we find African sporting talent in the first place? Why? Why do we need to find them, right? Ask yourself, why? when you answer, ask yourself another why. Ask yourself like 5 whys. Keep asking why to get to the root of the problem, right? And maybe what you're trying to say is the fact that, Africa has a lot of sporting talent, right? But they are not being discovered. Maybe that's the problem, right? And so maybe what you want to say is, what the next Messi is in Mushin. The next Messi is in, a remote community in Nigeria, right? Talent wasting away. Our platform, helps maybe foreign sports companies or talent agencies to spot budding talent, from remote communities. I feel like you people should start paying me for consulting. Abbas, I feel like you should pay me for consulting, but I hope you learned something from there, right? Okay, John, Operational Solutions addresses the problem of SMEs struggling to access affordable credit from commercial banks, microfinance institutions, and private lenders, thereby helping them overcome financial barriers to growth, right? So, John, I think part of what you also want to say in your deck, in your problem statement, is to talk about those problems. What are the issues, right? Banks usually ask for like a lot of documentation, and a lot of all of these SMEs don't have them, right? They ask for a lot of documentation. Sometimes they will ask you for collateral, right? I think the only thing they want to ask you for is probably your left kidney. So like you need to dramatize these problems and let them come true, right? Struggling to access affordable credit. How are they struggling, right? Is somebody learning something? Are you learning something? Please, I want you to go to the chat box right now, and I want you to type, I'm learning, or no, I'm not learning, or Benga, tell me more, right? So I want your feedback in real time. Now go to the chat box right now. Tell me if you're learning something. Is somebody learning something? Okay. Mary's learning, Hilary's learning. Okay, that's good. That's good. Good to know. Good to know. All right, so let's move on. Now let's talk about solution examples. Michael is also learning. Fantastic. Solution, right? So when you tackle the problem part of your pitch deck, you have to also talk about the solution part. And we're still on time. Okay, good. Now, an example of solution. Remember the problems that we talked about earlier? Transportation. Introducing our new electric scooter sharing service that provides a sustainable and affordable transportation option. With our service, if this were to be on a proper pitch deck, it would be the second bullet. This second sentence would be the second bullet. With our service, users can easily locate and rent electric scooters through our mobile app, reducing traffic congestion and pollution. This is fantastic. Fantastic. Next, healthcare. Remember, the problem we talked about earlier. Our telemedicine platform offers improved healthcare access and affordability. Bullet 1. Bullet 2. Patients can schedule virtual appointments with doctors, reducing wait times and costs. Our platform also provides access to online medical resources and remote monitoring for chronic conditions. Fantastic. And then finally, education. Introducing a personalized learning platform that revolutionizes education. Our platform utilizes AI to personalize learning experiences based on each student's needs and preferences. I wish I had, this kind of support, when I was in secondary school or university, right? I'm sure we all wish we did. With interactive lessons, real-time feedback, and collaborative projects, we foster creativity and critical thinking in students, right? This is the kind of pitch that an investor is listening to, and he's like, come and take my money, right? Because who knows, maybe the investor has, like a child at home that is struggling to learn, and then you are telling that investor that, with this our solution, your kid is going to be well taken care of. They're going to learn exponentially, right? So, solution examples. Now, what I want us to do is very, very quickly, and we don't have like 3 minutes for this. I just want you to use one sentence to profile a solution to the problem you talked about earlier, right? Profile a solution to the problem we talked about earlier, right? In one sentence. So if you need to scroll up, check the chat, and if you need to remind yourself of the problem we talked about, right? So scroll up very quickly, check the problem that you talked about, and then I want you to provide a solution in one sentence. Very, very quickly because of our time. How are you solving this problem, or how are you planning to solve this problem? In one sentence. I believe you're typing where you are. Yeah, I can already see your hands typing. Give it to us. Hot, 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 hot. Give it to us. Okay. Once we're able to have at least one person, then we can move on. Okay, let me move away from market size, which is the next thing, right? Solution, solution, solution. You have 3 examples on the screen. How would you solve the problem that you identified earlier? It looks like I'm going to have to stop my stopwatch this time. Okay, so 40 minutes. So I think I'll give everybody 60 seconds. I believe that you're already typing. So in 60 seconds, we'll be back, and then I'll react in real time to the solutions. So see you in 60 seconds. Oh, we're back. Fantastic. Mary has shared. We provide a reliable and safe space for selling and buying pre-loved clothes. This promotes entrepreneurial spirit in everyday people and contributes to circular economy. A reliable and safe space for selling and buying, So Mary, I think instead of safe space, you should have been like a digital marketplace, right? Safe space might as well be under the market, under the bridge at Oshodi, right? Safe space might as well be, anywhere, right? So you need to like define like a digital platform, provide a reliable and safe, digital marketplace for selling, right? Or you can say we are a, digital marketplace for, do you understand? So I think like the way you describe what you do is very, very important. What you say about what you do is as important as what you do. So somebody didn't get that. Let me take it again. What you say about what you do is as important as what you do, or how you say it, right? Just as important as how you do it. Jayola, we will be using biogas, which is safer and cheaper alternative to generate electricity for Nigeria. Ilori, you're on the way, right? You're on the way, right? But you can definitely position this better, right? So you can say, oh, the name of the startup, right? Maybe Buy Energy, right? Buy Energy is, is a startup that provides safer and cheaper energy access by leveraging the power of biogas, right? And engineer Anita, we are achieving this by providing data insights, directory of verified vendors, work tools, templates that ensures our customers have a viable data construction marketplace. So engineer, you should be able to shorten this, right? Yeah, we match contractors who want to construct buildings with vetted building materials, right? Of course, that's a very simplified version of what you're doing, right? But you have to be able to simplify it to one sentence, right? Simplify it to one sentence, right? We match A with B. Mary, which aligns with SDGs? Okay, all right, okay. So I hope we learned one or two things from there. So let's move on. Abbas, mobile app to showcase and connect remote African sporting talents to sporting agents, clubs, and opportunities. Abbas is coming up. Yeah. Abbas is coming up. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So let's talk about market size, right? What is market size about? Market size is where you like talk about how big the potential, your potential users are, your potential, customers. How big is that market? Right? And there are two main ways, you have bottom up, top down approach. Top down is easier because you typically sometimes you have like organizations like Statista, all these statistics agencies or research companies where they've already done like the maths for you, right? So it's very easy to go and quote Statista and say by 2025 the electric scooter sharing market is projected to reach so by 2025. To maybe $3 billion by 2025. It's very easy if Statista has done the math for you. However, if you don't have like complete math from like a research institute, like a research company like Statista, right? Or in Nigeria, we have a startup that does data. What's their name now? Stairs, right? So you need to know, this startup. Stairs, Bloomberg, Statista. Let me type their names, right? Stairs in Nigeria, that's Stairs. Statista globally. Bloomberg also does a lot of very good research. If you're looking for research generally about Nigeria, NBS, that's Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, right? So some of these guys have already done the maths for you. It's just for you to cite like the right. But if you can't find it, then you now have to do bottom up, which is you now need to calculate, okay, in how many cities do we have this need, right? What's the population of people in those cities? What is the population of people that need that service in those cities, right? How much can they, afford? And then you do the math, you multiply, and then you get like the size of the market, right? So that's bottom up, right? You should read up on both approaches, but this is an example of what that looks like in the real sense of it. So let's move on to business model. Business model is simple: how you make money. If your idea or your startup, is not making money or is not likely to make money, nobody's going to fund it, right? Investors want to get their money back. Maybe not today, maybe next year or next 5 years, but they want to get that money back because the investors also, most likely raised it from someone else. Most investors, most VCs, they also go ahead to raise money, right? So they don't want to lose the money. Now, there are also examples here, 3 examples. We're sticking with the 3 businesses here, or 3 different channels here. So let me start with transportation. We operate on a revenue sharing model, partnering with local businesses to provide electric scooters for rent. Can you see that? Very, very clear, right? Sorry, you need to mute. Someone is talking. Please mute yourself. I think AB Lukman, kindly mute yourself. The host, please kindly. Okay, who else is talking? Okay, I think we're fine now. All right, because the sound. Okay, so we operate on a revenue sharing model, right? Our platform charges a small transaction fee for each rental. So what's the business model here? There's a revenue share model. There's a transaction fee for each rental, right? Simple. Healthcare now. Subscription-based model. Very simple. Education, freemium business model, right? Meaning that basic features are free, premium features are, the very exciting features are paid. Your model should be very, very clear, right? You should not be like me in 2019, when they asked me, how are you going to make money from this platform? And I was like, when we have a lot of users, we are going to monetize through ads. Once I mentioned that, we intend to generate money, from ads, when we have a lot of traffic, when I looked at the judge and I saw their face, they were like, right? I just knew. I was like, it is finished, right? Investors want to hear concrete business models, right? They want to hear, I'm not saying you can't be the next Google or you can't be the next Facebook, right? But the chances are pretty slim, right? Why? Because those platforms are incredibly difficult to build, incredibly difficult. So if you're building a startup and then you're going to generate revenue from ads, and basically it's about the traffic to your website, like that's a very tough business to be in, right? Only few investors want to join you on that journey that you're on, right? So you have to be thinking business models, that can help you, that can showcase the impact of your work in a very short time, within a very short period, right? Those are the kind of business models you should be. In the future, you can change. After you've already built traction, in the future, you can look at Amazon, for example, right? Amazon is now doing ads, right, on their platform. They didn't start that way. They were initially focused on just the marketplace, matching buyer and seller, right? But now they've added 1, 2, 3 things. So in the future, yes, we can chase that Google, Facebook model. But now, today, come up with a business model that helps you generate revenue today, not in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So moving on. Traction. Now, of course, this is an actual slide, from Grandmaster. However, like I changed some of the numbers here. So these numbers are not correct. I changed them, right? But the clients, yes, these are real clients, right? But the whole idea of this slide is to give you a picture of what your traction slides should look like, right? This graph is, of course, a dummy graph, right? If your revenue is increasing month over month, then you should use a graph showing the growth, right? If your revenue is going up and going down, you should not use a graph. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot because now you're going to show investors that your business is going up, going down, right? So only use a graph if your revenue is what? Going straight up. Use a graph. Otherwise, just use like numbers, right? $1 million in 12 months, projected 3 million. Just use numbers, right? Just summarize, right? Give people the numbers, right? And if maybe, for example, you have very limited traction, right? Maybe if you have partners with a model, so. All right. We have $1 million in the pipeline. You've not closed the deal, but they're in the pipeline. Talk about it. That's traction. That's traction, right? Nothing screams on serious like somebody who's trying to raise money, even if it's pre-seed, and you've not done anything at all. You've not even built a website, right? You've not even done like a survey, nothing, but you want to raise money, except like you are a super founder, meaning that you already have like experience building and scaling businesses, right? Nobody's going to listen to you, right? So this is what traction should look like, right? Traction is quantitative evidence of demand, right? That's traction, right? Quantitative evidence of demand. Sales, user numbers, right? Number of app downloads. But of course, the best form of traction is revenue, right? That's the best form of traction. So this is what traction should look like. Team. This is an actual team page, team slide from Grandmaster. And then, of course, Team slide is your opportunity to just crush on yourself and, you know, remind every other person in the world how awesome you are. Like, is it not plenty? Is it not much? It's very plentiful. You basically have to hype yourself here. If you have a degree, put it there, especially if it's maybe like an MBA or MSc or something, put it there. You have won maybe one fellowship, won something, put it there. You have worked with big grants before, put it there, right? This is not the part where you are like humble or something, right? This is not that part where you are humble. No, your team page is the page where you take an AK-47 to a knife fight. It's the place where you like literally like talk about how awesome you are, yourself and your co-founders, right? That's the team page, right? So talk about, and basically you want to focus on like the very important parts, maybe your years of experience, the people you worked with, the fellowships, you know, your education. Just focus on anything that shows your competence, right? That shows your competence and experience. That's what you want to focus on, right? So this is an actual example, right? Actual example. So I hope this helps you to structure your team slide. Okay, let's move on. Ask. So the ask page, of course, I came up with this based on, you know, our transportation problem we're trying to solve, right? The ask slide is simple. You're asking for money at that point, right? So ask for the money. How much do you need? It should be clear. What will you use it for? One line is fine. Investors should not be wondering how much do they now need. No, you have failed. That pitch has failed. You should not leave investors wondering how much do they now need. No, 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 no. Ask for the money, right? Break it down. What do you want to use it for? You can even have like maybe 3 columns, right? Saying, no, we're going to spend maybe 20% on funding. We're going to spend 40% on this. Break it down. Your ask should be very, very clear. And your ask should be meaningful. Your ask should be commensurate to the stage of the startup. If you don't have, let's talk about this electric scooter business now. So let's say, for example, you are very early, you have maybe just 5 scooters, right? And then you're not asking for $10 million. For what now? Is it for beans? Is it for rice? Is it for dodo? For what? What do you want to use $10 million for? You only have 5 scooters. But if you say you want to go from 5 to say 50 scooters, that makes sense. Even 5 to 100, it's a stretch, but 5 to 50 still makes sense, right? But you want to go from 5 to 1 million scooters, like how? How? Right? So your ask should be commensurate with the stage of the business, right? It should not be outrageous. It should not be, right? Now let's talk about design and visuals. Let's talk about design and visuals, right? Use good visuals, good design, right? If you don't know how to design or stuff, go and hire a designer, hire a grandmaster, you know, hire professionals to put together your deck, right? Design your slides. Like if you look at this entire presentation, I did it in PowerPoint, right? You can use tools like Canva or PowerPoint. Limit the use of text. The reason why you're seeing a lot of text here is because this is a presentation. I'm talking to you and I'm trying to show you things. If I were actually pitching and it was an actual pitch, I will have way less text, right? So please don't say, oh, Benga is using a lot of text. No, it's because this is a training. That's why you're seeing a lot of text. Your visuals should complement your narrative. They should not replace your narrative. Your visuals should not. There's a thing as overusing visuals. You can overuse visuals, right? You want to use it in moderation. But I think the key thing here is minimize the use of text, right? Your pitch deck should not look like a riot. Like people are fighting. You just have text everywhere. Investors are now confused. Like, what is really going on here? No, right? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. 2 to 3 or 4 max ideas per slide. 3 ideas, you know, probably works better. Now, let me share some tips with you on how to deliver the pitch. But before I go on, I want to check the chat box and just see reactions. Okay, Mary is saying, talk about traction in more detail. What other possible asks to be added aside from money on the ask slide? So, Mary, money is the key thing that you want to put on the ask slide. Money, right? Aside from money, you can then talk about the things you want to use the money for, right? So you can break it down. Now, Mary, you said I should talk about traction in detail. Traction is basically any quantitative evidence of demand, right? Traction is you showing progress, right? So, however, traction cannot be that we hire 10 people. That's not very useful to an investor, right? Traction can be sales, right? It can be user numbers. We have, 29 clients. It can be app downloads. If it's an app, we have 100,000 downloads. Right? That's traction. So you need to ask yourself, for this startup, what is the quantitative evidence of demand? Right? And then whatever the answer is, that is what should be on your deck. So let's talk about delivering the pitch, right? You need to practice your pitch. I remember in 2019.
Hello, Benga.
Sorry?
Hello?
Hi. Yeah, go on, carry on. Mary, you wanted to say something? Carry on. Hello? Okay, no problem. I think I
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, yes.
Oh, okay. So can I give an example regarding distraction? So when I was doing my postgraduate, my team and I worked on a project where we interact with school. It was a business that we were solving problems for high school children. So we were confused on either to add some of the things like we already started the deal with the school, but they didn't sign the contract that they are going to make the payment for us to run the career boot camp for the students. So we were a bit confused of either to add that. We don't want to like lie about, but then it is something that is now a pipeline to add. So I just want to clarify if
Exactly.
okay
It's in the pipeline.
Okay.
You've said it. That's it. It's in the pipeline, right? So you can say, now, what is the value of the contract? Let's say the value of that contract you were chasing is maybe like 500,000 naira, right? So you can say, 500,000 naira, in contract currently in the pipeline. You're not lying. You've not closed the sale, but it's in the pipeline. Put it there, right? So I hope that helped.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so when you're delivering this pitch, the pitch, practice, right? Practice. You should practice your deck, right? Practice it. And in fact, you can even use like trigger words on your slide. So for example, sometimes when I'm presenting stuff, I'll put like a box somewhere and I'll say story. And I'll write maybe like an heading for the story, just to remind myself like, oh, I want to tell a story about, right? Sometimes the trigger for me is like a picture. Like if you remember at the beginning, I had a picture of myself at Bahrain, right? That's a picture, that's a trigger, right? Practice your pitch. If you're pitching in front of an investor and you are scatterbrained, you look unprepared, you're not going to get the money. You won't do, except you're Elon Musk. Next, body language and tone, right? You need to be confident. You need to be confident, right? You need to be confident. If you are shaky, you're not confident about what you're saying, investors are like, is she lying to me? Right? So confidence just shows that, oh, this person knows what you're talking about, right? And then engaging your audience, right? You don't want to put your investors to sleep, right? Engage them. Your delivery should be lively, it should be energetic, it should be, even if it's maybe, see, not everybody has to be like high energy like me, right? You can even be slow and measured, but it means that whatever you're saying has to be, meaningful. Has to be punchy. Give them punchlines, right? Give them punchlines. This is the point where you need to channel your inner motivational speaker, your inner coach, channel it, right? There's this leadership author that I like very much, John C. Maxwell. He knows how to drop rhymes, right? One of his rhymes is, leaders give up to go up, right? Leaders give up to go up. When you hear that, you're like, wow, right? You literally have to look for ways to communicate what you're doing. Let me give an example. Yesterday, I was in a particular interview for a particular grant, and one of the things that I said on that call was something around, let me try to remember now. Okay, so I remember now. If the internet is the new public square, okay, how did I say it? If the internet is the new public square, yes, if the internet is the new public square, then cyberbullying is the new public shaming. I won't tell, it was actually 3 sentences. I won't tell you the last sentence, right? So that you don't have, right? Right? So if the internet is the new public square, then cyberbullying is what? Is the new public shaming. And then I said something else after that. Why did I say that? Because I wanted like the reviewers of the call, the people that were interviewing me, I wanted them to have like a visual picture of what I'm talking about. I wanted them to understand like this is a serious problem. So I needed to give them a punchline, something that after the call they can think about. Cyberbullying is the new public shaming, right? Something that will play in their head. You have to develop sentences like that, statements like that. Develop it for your own startup, punchlines that when you drop like this, people are like, right? So I hope that helps. You need to engage your audience, right? Don't put them to sleep. And then time management, right? Stick to time. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm, looking at the time, making sure that, we don't go beyond, time limit. I have a stopwatch running, right? Stick to the time. If you're supposed to pitch for 3 minutes, don't attempt to cram everything into 3 minutes and you're not rushing, blah, 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 blah. No. You cannot say everything within 3 minutes. Yes, whatever it is that you're unable to say, when it comes to Q&A, you use the opportunity to chip it in, right? Don't rush. You're not from Russia, right? So this is how to deliver the pitch. Practice makes perfect. Make sure your body language is, on point. Engage your audience. Don't put them to sleep. And then, of course, manage time well. How do you handle questions? Prepare for common questions, right? I was saying about the interview that I was on yesterday, right? Before I prepare for that interview, in preparing for that interview, I literally came up with possible questions, potential questions, right? And out of maybe like 6 or 7 questions that I came up with, I think they asked around half, right? So my preparation was pretty much, on point, right? Anticipate those questions. When you're pitching to an investor, there's some certain questions that will come up, right? Anticipate them. They can ask you about your competition. They can ask you about product market fit. They can ask you, what is your exit plan? And of course, I hope you know what an exit plan is, right? How will this startup realize its potential? Meaning, do you intend to sell it to another startup in the near future? Do you intend to maybe IPO? Maybe you want to grow as big as Flutterwave and then do IPO, right? Or do you intend to sell some of your stock, secondary transaction, right? You need to have an exit plan. Nobody wants to do the same thing forever. Let me repeat that again. Nobody wants to do the same thing forever. Even Jeff Bezos is no longer CEO of Amazon. He moved on. Right? So please don't tell me that the startup that you're about to start or the one you are running, that you're going to run it for the next 20 years. Show you the why me. The chances of that happening are so slim, right? Am I saying that people don't do that? No, there are people that do that, where they run something for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. However, it is very, very rare. And of course, if you're talking to investors, they don't want to hear that. Investors don't want to hear that you want to be the person in charge in the next 30 years. No, are you Warren Buffett? Excuse me? They want to hear an exit plan. Next, navigating difficult questions. Be ready for hard questions, right? Stay calm. If you don't know the answer, say, what do you think, right? You can put it back to them, right? Now, you have to be careful here. You also don't want to come across as, a non-entity, as someone who does not have anything upstairs. No. However, you also want to be humble. So there has to be a balance. If they're asking a very difficult question you don't have an answer to, tell them, we're still figuring this out. We're open to, advice. Right? Don't try to answer a question I don't know the answer to, right? Don't do that. And then credibility building, right? Make sure that your responses are measured. And I think as a rule of thumb, try to keep your responses short. Because the longer you talk, the more likely that you're going to say something you're not supposed to say. All right. So keep your responses short, right? Keep it short. Okay. So what are some of the common mistakes to avoid when you are pitching, right? Mistake number 1 is too much information, right? And I mentioned this earlier. You have 3 minutes to pitch. You want to see everything. You're not, you're trying to rush it, right? Don't dump information on your investors. Don't dump information on the slides, right? Just keep it brief. Keep it brief. There's no way you're going to skip the problem segment and expect to get money. You need to emphasize what the problem is. Emphasize, stress over the problem. They need to know how serious it is. Lack of clarity in the ask. I mentioned this earlier, right? If by the time you get to the ask slide, there's nothing meaningful there, you're just saying, oh, we look forward to your support. Show you the why me. 1 naira you won't get. And then not addressing potential risks. You need to be upfront about those risks. A lot of you in your competition slide, you do a graph. You will now show that these are not people, they don't know what they are doing. We are the only ones that know what they are doing. You fear God now, right? You need to address potential risk, right? Is there a competitor that is, very good, like, as good as you, likely to give you troubles and issues? Address all of those things up front. Don't wait for your investors to bring those things up, potential investors to bring up those things, right? Address those potential risks up front. That way, investors are like, these guys have really done their homework. They've thought it through, right? So now, what is the conclusion? An excellent pitch can mean the difference between securing funding that moves your business forward or not. And then finally, continue to practice your pitch, refine it, right? The more confident you are, the better your preparation, the more confident your pitch will be, right? I remember this quote that I saw somewhere a long time ago, right? Success is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. Thank you very much. Happy to take your questions now. Host, over to you. My job is done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much,
You.
Brenda. So please, everyone, if you have questions, please kindly indicate. If you have questions, indicate by raising up your hand so that we pick your questions one by one. So I can see Mary. Please, if you have questions, kindly indicate. We pick questions one by one. And if you don't indicate now, that means we are picking only Mary. Or if you want to ask through the chat box, you can input your question there. So right now we have only Mary. So Mary, can you go on with your question? Mary. Okay. Michael, can you go? Michael.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Muyu, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, please. Please, can you talk more about the distribution strategy? I have been hearing about something, distribution strategy. Is there any way you can detail us about it?
Yes, sometimes it's called go-to-market strategy, right? So that is essentially like how you intend to reach your target audience, right? How do you intend to reach your customers? So your distribution strategy is going to be a function of the product or the service that you're offering, right? It's going to be a function of that. So let me give an example. If, for instance, what you're building is a mobile app, right? So your distribution strategy can include maybe using influencer marketing, right? Running ads, Facebook ads, app install ads, right? On those platforms, Facebook, Google, right? If it's a mobile app, right? It can even be some form of gamified affiliate marketing, right? If your startup is, say, like a B2B business, let me see. If your startup is a drone marketplace, for example, right? The question is, who is your target audience, right? So who are the people that need drones? Maybe you're targeting governments, for example, right? So maybe you want to go all in on LinkedIn, right? You want to go all in on LinkedIn, and then you want to have foot soldiers, like actual physical marketers who are going to those places to pitch. So maybe a combination of LinkedIn and then a combination of foot soldiers. So your go-to-market strategy or distribution strategy is going to be a function of what you are selling, right? The way you sell tomato is not the way you sell like a drone startup. The way you sell like a pre-loved clothes marketplace is not the same way you would sell a service like Grandmaster, right? So how you sell is a function of what you're selling. You need to ask yourself, where are my potential users, the target audience, where are they? How can I get them? And then you go all in. So I hope I answered your question.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was helpful.
Welcome.
Okay, Mary, you can ask your question.
Oh, okay. So thank you so much. This section has really been very insightful, and I'm really glad I'm part of the section today. So my question to you mentioned that we should practice our pitch. You say practice make everything perfect. So from being a founder of a Grandmaster, what's the advice for a young startup like myself and others who are here on this platform? Do we have to wait to when we are about to pitch before we practice, or what's your techniques for that to be able to help you to become a good pitch, so that even when they call you when you're asleep, you can quickly pitch your business without even looking at the slide?
Of course, step one is for you to first, put together a pitch deck, all right? And then step two is to test it on people in your network, right? Of course, you can't just share it with any random person, right? Test with fellow entrepreneurs, potential users, right? Just trusted people in your niche, right? Test it, pitch it to them, test it on them, right? And get their feedback, right? Get actual feedback, right? My advice would be that you should not test it on family and friends, because typically family and friends would just tell you that you're the bestest in sliced bread. They're usually very biased, right? But if you have friends that are very blunt, that have a very sharp mouth, you can test it and can keep a secret, because Essentially, you don't want your, your deck circulating on Twitter, right? So trusted people that can give you expert opinion, test it on them. And so from the feedback, you start refining your deck, bit by bit. And then just like I said, use triggers. Don't attempt to memorize everything on your deck. Use triggers to remind you of some things, right? So on, say, certain slides, you can have a trigger. That trigger can be a picture, can even be a story. Do you understand? So use triggers, right? And just practice, right? If your deck is well structured, you would not need to cram a lot because the points would already be on the deck. The points would then be the trigger, right? So just practice, come up with a deck, keep revising your deck, based on feedback, and practice. And in front of your mirror too, practice. So I hope that helped. Any other question?
Hello.
Mary, I see you. Abbas, yes, please carry on.
So what time will you recommend for practice? The pitching time is different. You may have a 3 minutes, 5 minutes, somewhere, even 10 minutes or 7 minutes in another place. So what average time will people use for practicing?
Okay, so this, I'm sure you'll get more information about how long you will pitch exactly, but most pitches are usually between 3 to 5 minutes, generally speaking. Jayola, I see you. So Jayola, go on. What's the question?
Yes, sir. One else, can we practice with you since you've had an experience with me?
You will have to ask the host. That one is out of my power. You'll have to ask the host. Yes.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Any other question? Anything about the pitching in November? You have to ask the host. You have to direct those questions.
Hello.
Hi.
Please, can we send our feedback to you for review?
You still have to ask the host. This is coming wants to be a billionaire like this. 50-50 follow friend ask the host. Okay, so I think since there are no questions on this particular topic that I've talked about so far, I think my job is done. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure sharing with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Olugbenga. I think he had to leave. He had another engagement. So for those asking about the pitch section, yes, it's for everyone. It's open to everyone, but then as we mentioned, it's going to be selective. We have to pick the top 5 to 12 guys out of ideate cohort 4 and 5. We have to pick those that are serious with the pitching. So if you've not internalized all that we've been teaching all of this while, and you've not prepared for your pitch, then there is no need trying to plan for a pitch. So I believe that a good number of you have been working on that. So we pick those that are serious about it, the top 10, and then we bring them up for the pitch session. So that's about that. So today is the last day for ideate 4. So we'll communicate with you on the group. We'll send you a survey for you to fill. And then we will, from the survey, those that fill the survey and all, we also send you your certificates between now and next weekend. But then the first thing is the survey. We send you the survey so that you fill, then the certificates. And then if there's any other thing, we will let you know. We will also be making a design to announce you guys online. So you should expect that too. Mary, you're raising your hand. Any question?
Okay, so I want to ask if the pitch is going to be online or physical.
Yeah, so the pitch is going to be online.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Michael, you are raising your hand.
Yes.
And one more.
Good afternoon, Teresa.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, my question is this: when we apply for this, we submitted a pitch deck. Is this the one you're going to use, or should we submit a fresh, the new pitch deck?
Of course, you're submitting a new one. In fact, as at the point of application, I am 100% sure that 99% of you guys have not used a pitch deck. So that's why we had this session on pitching and grant application, and like we had like two sessions or three of them around grant application and pitching, so that you learn how to prepare your pitch deck. So we don't expect you to be using an old pitch deck after you've been taught, for example, how to write your problem statement, your solution, and all of those things. We don't expect you to be using the old one. So you go and update it and write it as it should be. And then, of course, the traction, you have to work on your traction too. You have September, you have October till November to gain some traction that you will add to your pitch deck, because that gives you an edge too. Investors are not interested in big talk and all. They want to see that your business is lucrative, it has a promise, and you are working on it. And that's what the traction would show, whether in terms of downloads, in terms of revenue, or anything. That's about that. I think Benga has done a great justice to that aspect of pitch deck. And I think what was this other that guy's name? The guy that handled application and all, he dealt on it too. So I think that's all for now. Any other question before we close the session? Okay, Mary, make it quick.
Okay, so regarding the question I asked you via WhatsApp, I don't know if I can. I don't know
Okay,
if the update.
I think you can send me a message on WhatsApp so that I share some resources with you. Just send me a message on WhatsApp and remind me.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
So everyone, the remaining resources will be shared with you on the page. If you missed any session and you need any resources, you can scroll up the page, or if you joined the group late and you are not able to get it, you can reach out to any of the admin to share the resources with you, or you can ask your mates on the group to share it with you. Jayola, you are raising your hand. Any question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask and regarding the pitching. I mean, can we practice the pitch with Mr. Benga? Because he asked, yeah, he told us to ask the host
He told you what?
if we could practice our pitches with
Okay,
him.
if he offered to do that, that's fine. That's fine. So is it like a group or in person?
Yeah, I think in group will be better.
Okay,
It should be in a group.
okay. So I think I will follow up with him to know when he will be free for that. So by then, you guys should have worked on your pitch deck and all. So maybe we give you some time to work on that, maybe towards the ending of September or thereabout. So once you guys are ready, we can invite him in to help you guys finalize on that and all. So I think that's on that.
I think we should pick a date for that so that we will all be aware of it.
Okay, so I think you guys should suggest dates on your group. Yeah, so I think Michael, I hand that over to you. Suggest like two dates on the group, and then let people vote. Then you guys will pick a date. I'll pass that to him, and then let's hope that works for him too.
Okay, it's all right then. Thank you.
Yeah. Ugochukwu Nnadi.
Hi, Mr. Pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first one is the mentors. I don't know, my group, we've not really had any interaction with our mentors, so I don't know, maybe you might if you need to follow up with them or something, because we just created a WhatsApp group, but we've not had any interaction with him so far. And then my second question is so what's the benefit? Like when the people who get selected from the after the pitching session, I think it was written somewhere, but what are the benefits to the winners, to the people who get through? from the pitch session?
So it's the investors that will pick the promising startups. So we are inviting in VCs, we're inviting in angel investors. So if your startup meets whatever criteria they've set, so different VCs, different angel investors have different criteria that they look at when selecting startups. For example, if I'm a VC and I invest in startups that are within artificial intelligence, of course, I wouldn't have any business investing in a business that does with agric or any other sector that is outside of artificial intelligence and all. And some of them have a benchmark or a certain amount of traction you should attain before you expect investment for them. So that's why we keep hammering on traction and working on your pitch deck and the content of your pitch deck very well. So it depends on the investors. If they choose to make an investment, of course, we won't tell them how much to invest. It's their business. VCs run their businesses. So if they want to invest a certain amount of dollars, it's up to them. If they want to invest a certain amount, if they choose not to invest, fine. So that's why we told you, of course, no investor will see an investment opportunity that is promising and go over it. So your own best is to make sure that you prepare your startup that it's investable before time, and let the investors do their due diligence and then do all they need to do to choose the startups. So that's about that. Engineer Inita.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Yes, Inspire for the program. So glad and happy to have been part of it. So my question is on the traction. For myself, my startup is still on the idea stage. So for the pitch now, from what the timeline you gave, so that does that mean that if you're in idea stage, like when I applied for this program, I was an idea stage and all that. Does it mean that you have to have an MVP? Because for you to have a traction, that means you need to have an MVP before November. Or are you going to be judged on, I don't know. That's basically my question, because I'm not sure if is that case that you need to have an MVP, then how, that means the pitching is not necessarily open to everybody. Yeah, so that's my question. Thank you.
I think we share the materials. The facilitator that spoke about traction, I think he mentioned some metrics for I don't know whether is what's his name? Bumi. Bumi spoke around, he spoke a bit about traction too. So a couple of them spoke about traction, and it doesn't necessarily mean that your product has to be ready. I
Okay.
think, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm here. I can hear you.
So
Yes, we can.
traction might mean sign up. For example, your product is not ready, and you have on the home page of your product maybe a video that displays what your business does. I think there's this startup. I think it's OneDrive. OneDrive, I think they use similar thing to get, I think, how many, like they use just a video and sign up link to get traction. Their product wasn't ready. They just showed people a video of what their product will look like. It was on their front page. They showed you a video and told people, if you're interested, join the wait list and get free, let's say, 2 gig drive
Okay.
on the
So for
cloud.
example, we can use signups.
Yes, so you can use sign
For
up. Maybe
example,
if you're
because I'm just being honest, I don't think my MVP is going to be ready by November. So that's why I'm asking.
okay, so I think you'll find a way around it. Maybe do a video that shows what your business will be about and the benefits. I think you should Google up the video for OneDrive. how they did their initial this thing. Maybe Google it up, you might see their video online. You can look at that and know if you walk around it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Inspire team. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Michael, you want to ask us a question?
Yes. Okay. I was trying to say, I'm drawing this from the lesson we learned today. If you're going to bring these investors, I'm speaking this for those who are going to qualify for the pitching. If you're bringing the investor, please do let us or them know, or those you are bringing, so that we'll do a background check of them, please.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. I think this marks the end of this session. So if you have any other question, you can send to me on WhatsApp, or you can send to any of the admin, or you can drop your question on the page. So expect the survey on your page, and then your certificates and all. We might also have a joint session in the future. Perhaps, I'm not certain about that, perhaps we might have a final session on pitching and presentation, where we would gather cohort 4 and cohort 5, so that we give you guys a final training on pitching and presentation and all of those things. So that is
Okay,
still under
um,
probability.
I'm sorry, I just want to give a suggestion. Riley, I was wondering, since this has been a digital, virtual program and all that, maybe, I don't know if it's part of what I did planned, maybe we can have like accountability partners, maybe within the same sector, maybe like education or medical, so that beyond this program, we can like encourage each other, push and pull. Maybe we can assign accountability partners. It's just a suggestion.
Okay, I think that's actually why you have the support group, because all of you guys will be added to the Inspire startup group, which already your cohort 5, your cohort 4 forms as the sound serves as the basis now. So once we finish cohort 5, we'll also join you guys together and other people that we have.
Please.
But then if you need a special accountability partner, I'm not very quite sure how that works. Maybe you send me a message on WhatsApp, so that we might probably check those that are interested in having such. We can match you guys together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just say, it's maybe some other programs I've attended. It's like a post program initiative. To get people to still keep the fire burning and all that.
Okay.
And
So
basically it's for those that will be interested.
okay, just send me a message on that, so that we discuss that later. So in the meantime,
Also, I have a question.
okay,
Hello?
make it fast, make it quick.
Okay, so I'm